Hey folks, welcome to the Agnostic Philosopher. That's me. I'm Don. I don't take a dogmatic stance on almost anything, really. I have things that I consider to be reliable, but I'm not dogmatic about things. There are limits to what we can know. Those of you who've been following the channel know that that's my take on things. I don't care if someone believes in God, if they don't believe in God. If they're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, I like nice people. I don't care if people are atheists. It does not faze me in the least. This YouTube recommended to me. I said, I got to take a look at this one. How to reach an agnostic. Let's see if they can reach me. And this is from a Christian vantage point. I watched a few seconds of this and got the sense that this was from a Christian standpoint, as it would be. I, being a former fundamentalist Christian 25, 30 years ago, understand the mindset very well. When you are so right, so convinced that the New Testament in particular is right, and that Jesus is the only way, is the way, the light, truth, all this stuff, and that these texts are God's word, that's why that's how you know you have to believe them and you could trust them. People, I don't disparage people who believe that, but I want to see how this is presented. 4 ways to reach an agnostic.
Or I wanted to ask if there was any, any sort of stuff you could talk to them about that would not result in an argument.
Well, I think the question you want to start with is, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? Because if the person hesitates or says no, it doesn't matter how much evidence you give them. In fact, the more evidence you give them, the more annoyed they're going to get with you. They don't want evidence. They're running from God. They don't want you pursuing them. So if they're open, great. Then why don't we do a study on it and see if it is true?
All right, but I would stop here and say, if you do a study on it and they still say that it's not true, that they don't believe it, that they're not convinced, what's the response at that point? Do you say, okay, fair enough, you gave it a shot, I still love you, I'm still friends with you, we could still go to dinner? Or do you say, no, you're still one of them? Because if you notice the language that's being used here, and I'm very familiar with it, and it's sort of like being somebody who quit smoking years ago. When you walk into a room now that's got smoke in it, or there's a pack of Marlboros on the table, then you notice it right away. You notice the smoke. You're actually worse later after you've quit something when you see it, because you're so aware of it. And it might be enticing you, it might be revolting to you, it might be both. But the language being used here, they, we've already kind of DEI'd people in a sense. We've already categorized them by a given trait. In this case, not skin color. In this case, by classification. They're not one of us, those who believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So therefore, they are lost. And we can refer to them as they, and we could speak to them speak about them as a group. They this, they don't want this. I did like his initial question, though, and his initial question to me was perfectly valid, perfectly good question to say, well, ask them, if the Christian viewpoint were correct, would you accept it? And that's a fair question, because you don't want to waste your time either. And if the person said, no, I'm not interested, you got to respect that. But now let's see where he goes with his 4 points. These are the 4 ways. Let's see if I can be reached, for example. I've already been reached, by the way. We'll see if I could be re-reached.
If they're not open, I think there are 4 things you can do, maybe more. I'm just thinking of 4 things. Fine. Number 1 is you can pray for them. Number 2, you can plant seeds every now and then that show them their worldview is wrong and Christianity is true.
It's manipulative.
Number 3, you can love them, which doesn't mean you approve of everything they do, as I mentioned earlier. And number 4, you can wait. If that person's ever going to be open, it's probably going to be when tragedy strikes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point too. It's more likely to happen when tragedy strikes too. But the thing is, sometimes when tragedy strikes, people actually go further against the idea of God, because what's been put out there is that God is in control and God is all good. So if bad things are happening, my boat explodes, my child is injured, I come down with an incurable disease, for example, it could be like, how could somebody purposely do this? How could somebody purposely allow the labor camps in North Korea to take place, for instance? So it could push them in a further direction. But I mean, a number of folks, when they're just so broken down, their walls are down. Maybe they've gone through or going through a divorce. They don't know who's a friend. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that attracted me to the fundamentalist group that I was part of decades ago was that the people, at first anyway, were very nice. They were very kind. They were welcoming. I did not grow up in a loving household. That just was not how my parents rolled. They didn't have that kind of emotion or affection. A number of these folks did. It was a very supportive, kind group, but there was one condition, and it was an ongoing oppressive condition that you had to accept all of the dogma and doctrine, nuances and all, of every interpretation of every text as handed down by the founder of that particular ministry. And they still, to this day, 40 years later, the people who are still involved with that ministry still adore and basically worship that leader who's now been dead for 35 years or something. But his point here to say, his third point was, I think it was his third point, you can love them. One of the things you can do is to love them. That is formulaic. It's like, I don't know if you can do love as much as you just have to be loving. You want it to be a natural outflow. The second best thing would be an unnatural outflow where you're supporting and kind and reaching people, because there's a value in that socialization. People see it, they feel that. If they're in a very low point in their life or a conflicted point in their life, they might be open to hearing what you have to say, even if the way you're being maybe disingenuous, but not mean-spirited. They want you to come to their Bible fellowship or hang out with me. Let's go to dinner, coffee, whatever, and we'll talk, we'll hang out. But if the sole mission, and it generally goes this way, and that is the context of this, is to get somebody to see that your religion, your particular version of it, is the right one, then that really commoditizes people and that dehumanizes them. So that to me is my biggest problem, where you really just commoditize people and it becomes a matter of numbers. I want to get another one into my Bible fellowship. I want to win another one for Christ. I want it to become like this numbers game more than, say, a way of living. I like the way the gentleman in the audience asked the question. It really did seem sincere. He seemed to be a gentle soul in the 5 seconds I saw of him on camera, and that can change. You know, people can become a little dogmatic, and that lends itself to becoming unkind, unfeeling. Over time, it becomes all about wanting to hear other people recite the words that you're comfortable hearing. Jesus is Lord, raise him from the dead. A soft answer turns away wrath. There are some very good maxims in the Bible too, by the way. A soft answer does generally turn away wrath, frequently your own. When you're getting angry and you decide to say something softly instead of blasting them, it does turn away wrath. Turns away your own, and it decreases the likelihood that the other person's going to have an angry reaction to you. But my next problem with this approach that the gentleman took is it assumes you're right. You know, he's assuming he's right. And to a certain point, even in the sciences, when you're trying to convince somebody of a given thing, you've got to believe that you're right about it. So I get that. That assumption, that supposition, the presupposition is what you're going to work with. If you're trying to prove something in the sciences, at some point after you've tested it enough and you believe it enough, you try to show other people that this is the way this given thing works. This new equation is right. This new thing accounts for how photons work. If you pick your poison. To me, it seems we need to have the idea in our minds that I might be wrong. We might be wrong on a given thing. And that sort of softens you. But on a larger scale, maybe it's the people who don't take that approach that make the biggest difference, is like in the medical community. Do you want a surgeon working on you who's all touchy-feely, or do you want to have a surgeon who refuses to fail? That's why he's doing it. I refuse to fail and let this person die. Not even because I care or love this person, but I want to have my craft right. Now, there's a difference in that, but who do you want operating on you? The touchy-feely good bedside manners who maybe doesn't understand his craft well enough, or the person who could not care less about what you think or feel. He just wants to make sure that heart works when you get out of here. For the most part, we'll take the guy who wants me right. We'll take the aircraft engineer, the metallurgist who built the aircraft, the fuselage, who gets it right, who worked hard, who doesn't really care about feelings, but we want to be safe. So is my position right about conviviality, or maybe holding it in our minds that we might be wrong on something? There is an absolute benefit to that, not just socially, but also scientifically, because then you're open to getting your metals better. You're open to somebody else saying you might need to add 1% more copper to that alloy to make it more conductible, or make it whatever you're doing in your field. But there is an advantage. There is an advantage in some ways to not backing down from your position. Sometimes you've got to beat it down 50 times for people to see that you know what you're talking about and your way is adopted. So I get the idea of believing in what you're preaching, whether it's theism or science or both, some combination thereof. But I really do have an aversion to commoditizing people. You're a commodity. Each one win one. That was one of the mottos of the group that I used to run with, where, if you brought somebody new to fellowship, you were saving somebody from death. But not only that, you were supporting the group. The group wanted to see its numbers grow. We have a big fellowship. Then there are more people to pat each other on the back that, oh, you believe what I believe? Pat, pat, pat. Oh, you believe what I believe? Pat, pat, pat. And it's a mutual admiration society. And that is partly what attracted me to it as well. There is a nice social construct to these different fellowships. But the bottom line is, if you ever find reason to challenge any of the planks, major or minor nuances of their dogma, the out front, the stanchions that say out front of a church that say all are welcome. It really doesn't mean that. It's conditional. And I understand it, but all are welcome. Just don't cause trouble. Don't challenge us in what we believe, and we'll all get along fine. And fair enough. I mean, I get it. You want to have less friction in a group. But let's not preach love. Let's not, like he was saying, if love just continues. If you're a friend to somebody, you're a friend to them, plain and simple, whether they believe something or not. If they agree to have your back and you've got theirs in life, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Christian, Jew, atheist, theist, whatever, it doesn't matter. You stick by them. And that's how this formulaic approach to winning another person, that I'm not a formula guy. So that doesn't work. So anyway, folks, leave your comments. Who knew that a 40-second short would lead to this? But I generally know, because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to ideas. Have a great day. Please subscribe and like it. Share it if you would as well. That would help the channel move along and keep thinking philosophically. Hey, folks. If you want to take the personality test that I created for my life coaching practice, which is based on the book that I wrote, put your phone up, turn it on camera, and focus on this, and it'll take you to it. And it'll take you about 20 minutes to complete the test. It's free, and you'll get some information on your personality. It's quite detailed, quite revealing. It's kind of fun as well. And I'll be leaving this QR code up on the wall behind me for my regular videos. So I hope you take it, and I hope you enjoy it.